You're listening to She's the Business podcast. My very special guest today is the lovely Donna from Productivity Plus. Now, Donna is a specialist in the numbers. She really understands project management and measuring data that's coming into your business so that you can see at a glance, exactly where you're at right now. Where are things going really well? Where are things maybe not going that well? What should we be focusing on right now so that you can maximize the output and the results for your business? Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and in my 23 years of business and marketing, I've built many brands to become multi-billion-dollar companies. And just in the last 10 years, I've built 2 online businesses of my own from my dining room table with 2 little babies running around at my feet. I've made it my mission to inspire you to get out of your own way and become the successful business owner who's living the lifestyle you really desire without all the hustle. This is She's the Business podcast, made by women for women. This is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration. My very special guest today is the lovely Donna from Productivity Plus. She partners with high-level entrepreneurs to bring their business goals and dreams to life through data. So she actually helps you analyze your data and produces it in a way that's really easy to see the insights that you need. So measuring data, managing what's going on in your business, and helping you to focus on the things that are going to make the biggest difference. So she's like strategic partner for the visionary. And yes, they go arm in arm, because while it's great to have the ideas, there's so much that data can tell us about our business right now that if you're trying to run a business without knowing your key metrics, then it's kind of like flying a plane with your eyes closed. How do you even know where it is that you're going? Are you pushing the right buttons? Are you pulling the right levers? Well, we don't know that without the data. So today's episode is a really fun one. Donna simplifies it. She's going to break it down and pull out what are those top line metrics that we really need to be tracking. And it's not many, but they are so powerful and significant. So let's dive into it and see where you are at with your tracking right now. Are you across the key metrics? Do you have the insights that you need to grow and skyrocket your business this year? Without further ado, let me play this interview for you. Okay, and I'm here today with Donna, who is from Productivity Plus. Welcome, Donna. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast today. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Jessica. I'm so excited to be here as well and share with your audience.
Yes, and all the way from Canada as well. We're having a literal across the globe conversation today, which is what I love so much about this, is just getting to connect with women all over the globe who are doing wonderful things in their business. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and who you serve in your business?
Yeah, for sure. So I am the founder of Productivity Plus, and we focus mostly on helping online entrepreneurs maximize their profit through leveraging the power of their data. And so for a lot of people, as soon as they hear the word data, they want to run in the other direction. But hold out for a bit. I promise you, by the time you're done listening to this episode, it won't be so overwhelming and scary, and might be actually something you want to dip your toe into and learn a little bit more about. So yeah, I got into this role roundabout way. Actually, I was in healthcare for a number of years. And then once I had children, I found the shift work was a little tiring for my body and my family time. And so I wanted to make a pivot. I've always been very analytical and very sort of project management, that type of thing. Just how my brain works. Yes. Yeah. So I came into the online space doing some project management. And then it was actually through working with clients in that realm that I discovered the power of the data and how it can really help them grow and expand and know what is working and what's not working in their business. So then I took a little twist and dove into that a little bit more. And that's sort of where I focus now.
Yeah, wow. And this is such an important conversation. I know I'm one of those ones who's like,
it's not my natural zone to be in, I think, is in the data, looking at it. But when I've got it there in front of me, I love it. Like, I love diving and getting the insights out of it. But it's not what I sit down at my desk and think, oh, I must go and look at the data. Like, it's probably the last thing on my mind, to be fair. And yeah, I can see, like, it is so powerful, but it is also, for me, I guess, a bit of a personal struggle to remember to do it or to look into it. And so I'm really keen to have this conversation today, because I know that there are many people who are like me, maybe a bit more creative, we're less numbers focused. And, I think that there's a way that we can do it that's not going to feel too hard and too overwhelming. So bringing that to us, I'd love to hear some of your advice on that. So maybe we should start with why we should even do it in the first place. So why is tracking metrics so important? And, are you seeing people who aren't doing any tracking at all? And, what kind of, what's the consequence of not tracking?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, no, that's okay. Yes, I do see a lot of business owners who aren't tracking. And I think the reasons are similar to what you suggested, Jessica, in the sense that, they feel they're more on the creative side and they'd rather go make content or make a new program or come up with a different offer or something like that. But it's a shame, because if they did take the time to look at their data, it would be so helpful to know what direction to go next. So what new content, what kind of content is really resonating with my audience? The data can show you that. How are people getting to my website and what actions are they taking when they get there? The data can show you that. So it's just so helpful in a holistic perspective, not just from a marketing perspective. So I like to work with my clients and say, you got to look at your data from the marketing side, the financial side, and the operation side. So we look at some data points from each of those three areas so that we're getting a holistic view.
Yes. And I can relate. I guess I've got a great story about why it's so important, that I've literally just been experiencing this week myself, because I'm promoting a free training that I'm doing next week, for example. And I've got people who are opting in for that. And, I see the opt-ins come through, and I was feeling like, I wish there was a few more. Like, it doesn't feel like it's doing as well as it could be. And then last night I went into Google Analytics and dove into my data and was having a look at the opt-in page conversion, because I thought, well, maybe people are getting there and they're just not opting in. So there might be a problem with my page. But I found that it was actually converting at 50%, which is fantastic for an opt-in page. And so it just completely changed how I was feeling about it. I was thinking, there's a problem. I'm going to need to go in and look at the page and see what's not right on it. But actually, people who are arriving on the page, it's called Master Your Marketing. It's like a free training. The people getting there are actually opting in, or 50% are, which is pretty good considering a lot of them are cold as well.
Very good, yes.
There's where the data actually tells you a totally different story. And it's not a problem with the page. It's actually, just need to get more people to it, right?
Right.
So
and if you hadn't have known that, you may have said, I got to change the page, or maybe my masterclass isn't great. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change the title, re-record it, or worse, throw the whole thing out.
Yes. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We've all heard of business owners who say, I'm going to do a launch. Oh, that launch was a fail. It's garbage. I have to throw it out. And really, if they had data, it could be a small little tweak that they need to do or not do, like you noticed in your case, to make things better, right? So I know I was working with a client recently, and she was in the middle of a launch. And so we had made her a launch dashboard so that she could quickly see the stats on her launch and how things were going. And we noticed that the launch was going well in terms of number of sales, but the number of people buying from mobile was quite low compared to desktop. And we thought, it's 2022. I'm pretty sure people are buying from mobile. So what's happening here?
Yeah.
So we dug in a little bit further, and we noticed, people were arriving on the sales page, but there was a very low number going from sales page to checkout, and therefore a small number going from checkout to purchasing. And so we both pulled up our phones and took a look. Well, it turned out in the design process, the CTA button on the mobile view was down lower. It wasn't up high above the fold where people would just hit it right away. And so we realized that people would have had to scroll to take action, and therefore probably weren't. So we quickly got to designer, moved the button back up, and boom, her mobile sales started increasing. So there was nothing wrong with the launch, right? It was just a small tweak, and we wouldn't have known where to tweak if we hadn't pulled that data.
Yeah, so true. And it's, it's such a common one. You think, oh, that's not working. And then, for example, if your page is loading really slowly, it just might be, well, your ads could be working. They could be sending, people are clicking on it, but then they're bailing out because the page isn't loading fast enough. Yeah. But yet you might be thinking, oh, the ads aren't working because no one's signing up. And then when you look at your ad data, again, it's like, well, actually you can see that you're getting the clicks on the ads and the click-through rate is good. Why are they not appearing on the landing page? And, that's where I just love it, love being able to diagnose all of those things. And there is so much data at our fingertips these days. So I know it can feel like, oh my goodness, where do we even start? I know that it's important to, start off with probably that higher level view and then be able to dive deeper when you're trying to uncover something that's going on. So
yes,
where do we start? Like if someone's kind of really new and hasn't got any kind of data tracking going on at the moment, what are the first steps so that it's not like this huge mountain to climb? We just want to take the first few steps up to the first level.
Yes, for sure. So first thing, if you're not tracking anything yet, don't worry. Now's your time to start. Don't worry about the past because most of your data tracking tools are going to go from today forward. So it's okay. Don't worry what's in the past. Now you're going to set yourself up for success from today going forward. And so I like to tell business owners to start with what their goals are. So what are your business goals in the next 12 months? And make sure those goals are something that's measurable, right? So you don't want to say, well, I want to increase profit. You actually want to put a number on there. I want to increase from 20%, I want to increase my net profit by 20%, for example, something that we can measure.
Yeah.
And then from there, depending on what your goals are, then we're going to find which metrics we need to track to see if you've met those goals or not, right? Because obviously we want to make sure you're meeting the goals that you set out for your business. And so once we find those metrics, then we dig down to say, okay, where are the data sources where we're going to get those numbers from? Do we have a data source already set up, or is this something new we have to set up? And then we pull all those data sources into a custom dashboard so that you can see it in a visual way without having to look at spreadsheets or do any math.
Yeah.
So it's really going back to starting with what are your goals and pulling out some metrics based on those goals.
Yeah. And what are the key data sources that, okay, if you're just going to bite off one chunk at a time, what's the first one that you should look to be tracking? And then, what would you say? Is it your website?
So I would say based on those three pillars of marketing, finances, and operations, we should be pulling a little bit from marketing and a little bit from finances to begin. Because we are in business, we're not a hobby. So if you're in a business and you never look at your profit and loss statements, or you don't have a bookkeeper who goes over them with you, that's step number one, right? Is to try and pull some numbers so you can know what your net profit or net margin is, right?
Yes.
Because you want to make sure that your revenue and your expenses are staying in line. So that's number one. Second thing in this online world is to look at some Google Analytics data, have that hooked up to your website. So you know, where is my traffic coming from and what kind of things are they doing on my website? What kind of content am I producing that's attracting that audience so that you can capitalize on it and do more?
Yeah, definitely. Right? It's so funny what hidden things are in the Google because like when I first set up my website years ago now, I remember looking and seeing one of my highest landing pages was my freebie landing page, which meant that people were finding me on Google because they were searching for that term. And so that then gave me all that insight to be like, wow, people really want this. So I could build a lot more content around it and even look to optimize that page even further, which was really interesting. So you don't even need to be diving into the heavy stats within Google. It's really just looking at, your page numbers, isn't it? Like, what pages, where is your traffic coming to? What are your top pages to give you a bit of an insight?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry,
So
then
once
what
you
was
have
the
Google
other?
Analytics hooked up to your website, you can go to one of my favorite reports, which is showing you the source and medium. So it's showing you what kind of traffic is coming and what type of traffic, whether it's organic or paid or referral, that type of thing. And you can see those pages, as you're saying, which pages are getting the most hits on my website. So that's a good place to start, because then it starts giving you some insight as to, what's attracting people and what kind of content you want to produce more of.
Yeah, and I think important to note as well, like once you've got your pixel set up, is just give it a bit of time before you're really analyzing the data, because you need some time in there, don't you? You actually need some data to be making some insights. So how long after you've got your pixel set up, should you be diving into really getting insights out of the report? I guess you want to be seeing that it's working, so you can be looking in there at any time, but what would you say you would give in terms of a time frame before you're running your first real reports and really looking at, okay, what's going on here from
Yes. So what you can do is right after you set it up, there is a section in Google Analytics for real-time reports. And so that will tell you actually who is on your website right now. So you can go to another tab and go to your website, click one of your pages and go back to your Google Analytics, refresh it, and you should see one visitor, which would be you. There may be more, but at least you. So that tells you, okay, it's working. Google is picking up my data. And then from there, depending on how much traffic you have, you probably have to give it a good month to 2 months to be able to actually see enough numbers to be able to analyze what's happening. Because again, if you just set it up today, it's only going to measure from today forward.
Yeah. Now,
I would give it that month or two. Sorry?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, a month or two. A question just came up because this is something I know a lot of people ask or potentially have trouble with as well. With website platforms, so obviously if you're on WordPress, there are Google Analytics plugins, or there are other plugins that say that they have data like Monster Insights and things like that. And then Kajabi obviously has its own analytics in the Kajabi platform. What do you advise people to do? Where should they be looking to get the best data? Because I know from my experience, I have a Kajabi site and I've had WordPress, so I've kind of been in all camps. What you see in Kajabi is not what you see in Google Analytics. I think this is really important because, where should you be looking to get the actual real view of what your data is so that you're making decisions based on actual reality and not that none of it's not real, but maybe you could dive into that a little bit for us.
Yes, Jessica, I'm so glad you brought this up because I talk to my clients about this a lot. And you're right. There looks like there is no one source of truth because Google Analytics will say I had 25 people on my page. Kajabi says I got 15. Facebook says I got something else. And it's true. They're all using a different data model behind the scenes to capture those numbers. And so those numbers will never be exactly the same. But don't stress or worry about that because what's more important is the pattern and the trends, right? So if one says you have 15 and one says you have 12 and the other says you have 13, that doesn't really matter. What we're looking at is where were you compared to the month before? Where were you compared to last quarter? Where were you compared to last year? Right? And we want to see those patterns and trends. And so the actual details of differing between each platform, not worry about. It's a big thing that's coming up now, actually, because you may or may not know that Google Analytics recently said that July of 2023, everyone must move to their new Google Analytics 4 instead of using the current Google Analytics Universal. And so its data model is actually different. And so if you go and compare the same website, same time, you'll find different traffic numbers between Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4, even though it's the same company with two different platforms, right? But it's the way that they capture the data in the back end. And so Universal Analytics is looking more at users and sessions, whereas Google Analytics 4 is counting everything as an event. So it's just a different way of modeling the data. So I say if it's less than a 10% change, don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to need to get our heads all the way around this new Google platform. I did dive into it and then I switched back very quickly to Universal because it wasn't giving me the data view that I wanted. And I hope that they do something in version 4 because what I want to see are things like I mentioned before, how I check my page conversion rate. So I look at the pages, like, unique views on the opt-in page versus unique views on the thank you page. And then I do the, okay, well, so how many people went from the opt-in page to the thank you page and work out the percentage that way. I guess from understanding what you're saying with the new Google Analytics 4, I can't even say that they will be tracking it as an event. So that would be a conversion event on that page. It just seems to be not as granular to me. And I think when I like diving into the data, I like to see the overall view to be like, okay, what should I look at? And then I want to go deep and I want to see the journey. I want to see where people have come from to get to the page and where they're going next, and look at the conversion rates, because that to me is telling me the story of what's happening on the website. Like, what are the people actually doing? Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? And not just the high level stat of how many times the event is triggered. So
yes,
I hope
I think it will get there. I think overall, once it's ready, it will get there, and it will be better for us on the whole because of a number of reasons. One is it's going to be better at cross-domain tracking. So when Universal Analytics was set up, we were all, doing one service on one website, right? Yep. Maybe we were on WordPress. We didn't have a cart system on a different domain and lead pages on a different domain and this over there and our podcast somewhere else. So now if we are on many domains, which many of us are, we have to use something called Google Tag Manager to tell Google that these are all my people, these are all my domains. My users are moving around those, but it still all belongs to me. Don't count it as another user because it's the same person. And so Google Analytics 4 will be much better at tracking that. So if they land on your website and then they go to another domain of yours and then another domain of yours and eventually buy, it will be able to track that movement much easier. The spot where Google Analytics 4 is not ready is exactly like you said, in the reporting. So the reporting of what we see is much weaker still. And I'm really hoping by the end of 2022, that has really been increased and buffed up so that we can actually start to do some reporting from Google Analytics 4, because you're right, at the moment, it's still quite weak. So I suggest people have both Universal and Google Analytics 4 hooked up to their website so that both are tracking their data.
Okay, you can have both.
You can have both, yes, and it won't interfere with either one. So that when July 2023 comes and we have to move to GA4, you now have a year's worth of data already being tracked, right?
Yes.
So that's a reason for setting it up early, even if you're not using it. I just set mine up and forget about it. Well, I go in there tinkering because I'm a data nerd, but for my clients, no, it's just there. And when GA4 is more robust in terms of reporting, then yes, we'll switch over to using that. There's also a lot of talk about GA4 having some AI capabilities. And so I'm interested to see, where that's going to take us. But again, it's not there yet. And the thing changes so quickly. Like I'll be in 1 week, I'll go in 2 weeks later, and it's completely different. So they're still working on it.
Yes, that's so true. And now with Google, since we're going granular here and talking about that, and it is such a beast, but it is amazing, really, the insights that we can get these days. Shall we talk quickly about Google Search Console and what people might need to do there? Because, search data is really important. And I know this is something, it's not common knowledge. You hear about it from someone, oh, I've got to do that. I don't know why. They don't tell you what you need to set up when you're doing your setup. So if you're brand new, you're like, right, I need to get this Google Analytics tracking code in my website. Don't worry, it sounds heavy, but it's not. It's literally copy and paste a piece of code into your site and you're done. Bang, go and check that it's sitting there. But let's now move on to the other part, the Google Search Console. What it is, why you need it, and that, yes, you need to set that up.
Yes, for sure. So what Google Search Console does is tells us the keywords that people are typing in their browser to find information. And when our website comes up as a hit, then Google is tracking, okay, you looked up blue pillows and you got my website, right? Or you looked up rainbows and clouds and you got my website. And so from the business owner's perspective, that's really useful information because you know now what keywords your audience is using to find you. They don't know they're looking for you. They have a problem and they're searching for their problem.
Yeah.
But when you hit that, when Google says, oh, yes, your website information matches this, then they'll track that for you. And so as a business owner, you can go in and see, okay, these are the popular keywords and what content those keywords brought them to on your website. And so then you can capitalize on that. You can use more of those keywords in your blog post, whatever you've got, whatever written content you have, to help increase your SEO. And you also know what more content to produce that your audience is looking for. So really important to have set up. Easy to set up as well. If you just search online, whatever website host you have, and then say Google Search Console, it will, you'll get some instructions.
Yeah. And then once it's set up, you don't even need to go in there again, do you? You just look at the data within Google Analytics. So it's like a setup, and then you can forget about it. It's done.
Yes.
But it's really important to do. And I think one of the things that I used to really look at in that data, which was great to inform marketing as well, was percentage of what I'd call brand keywords versus a percentage of non-branded keywords that people are using to find your site. Because most of your keywords that people are using to find your site are your own business brand, your own name. You know, what does that tell you? It means that they already know who you are. So they're typing your name in to find you, which can mean a couple of things. It can mean you're doing a great job of PR somewhere. People are hearing about you and they're typing it in. You know, it'll be based on your business as to what you're doing, to why that might be happening. Like, for example, if you do a lot of printed brochures and you've got them stuck up around places with your website on or your name on, then, you know, that would be natural for someone to go onto their phone into the search and type in your name to find you. But what we really want to be seeing, you know, and that's all great, but we do want to be seeing people finding you based on what they're looking for. So like the non-branded keywords, if you don't have any of those in your top 10, then you really need to be thinking, well, what are our keywords and how do we start optimizing the website so that people who are searching for what we do actually find us? You might be way down on page 8 or 9 or 10 or somewhere, you know, buried down there, and it will tell you, the Search Console will tell you what your rank is. So obviously, Google goes in numbers of 10. So up to 10, you're on page 1. If it's 10 to 20, you're on page 2, and so on and so on. You know, you can look in and see where are you ranking right now. And your aim is to slowly climb up the ranks, get closer to page 1, because not many people go through more than 2 pages of search results. You know, maybe they
That's true. Yes. And don't be disappointed. Just take it as, okay, it's 2022. That's where I am right now. I'm going to concentrate and, you know, do my efforts to increase that. And next year, I'm going to see where I'm at.
Yes.
So it's not, how do you say, it's not a race, it's a journey.
Exactly. And it's a long-term strategy. So it's like you can't expect results overnight. And, you know, even a really well-established business, I used to work for the Royal Bank of Scotland, which is obviously an enormous banking group. And I managed many website rebuilds and relaunches. And, you know, even though the domain is the same, the website itself was brand new on a different platform and what have you. And you put that live, it takes a while to get all of your search data, your search rankings back. You know, you take a hit whenever you do those sort of things. So I think it's, you know, that's just how it is. Can't expect overnight results. There are things you can do in the meantime, like you can look at, well, if it's really important to be found in search for your business, then consider doing Google Ads, for example, which can put you then on page 1, which is what I always used to say. Well, you know, while we're waiting for our organic SEO to catch up, we can do some paid ads, which will mean that you've got that presence there still. And then you can sort of dial them back once your organic is back again. So there are ways around it, but it's just, you know, with the organic, like you say, we've got to have that expectation. This is long term. It'll happen slowly. It's like you're pushing Google. It's a great big behemoth. The search
world. And I think, you know, a lot of us starting out, or even just in a few years, you know, we start looking at the gurus and what they're doing and we think, oh, but we have to remember they started small too. Right. And it took time to get there. And so it's, you know, you can't expect overnight success. It does take a lot of work and a lot of effort.
That is awesome. So I think we've been talking a lot about what we should be tracking, where, the kind of insights. Are there any other key insights that you think we should be aware of, that we should be looking for? When you're looking at some reports, where's your go-to spot to kind of be like, right, let's sort of dive here and see whether we're uncovering an issue or even something really great that's going on? What would those be that we're looking for?
So what I like to do with clients is get them to start asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then we pick the data points that are going to answer those questions. So it would really depend on their business. But again, let's say they say, I want to know which one of my products is doing better in terms of my return on investment. I've got this membership and I've got a course, and I like doing both of them, but I'd like to know which one is bringing me better return on investment. So by asking that question, now we know where to start looking, and then to go, as you say, deeper if we need to. Or if we're doing a launch, well, as a business owner, I think maybe I should revamp my sales emails. Okay, well, let's look at the data and look at that click-through rate and see which emails resonated the most with your audience. And we can do that through using special codes called UTMs. Then we can track how many people did what with those emails.
Yeah.
And then, for example, that fourth email, maybe the subject line wasn't great because I didn't get much engagement from that one. Maybe I'll just revamp that one instead of the whole series. And so really it's asking that question first and then looking at where is that data and then digging further to get that answer.
Yeah, definitely. Because the open rate, I guess, versus the click rate on emails, if you're not getting a high open, then it's usually your subject line is the first thing that you change. And then you can look at the click rate. If the open rate is good, but the click rate is low, then it'll be the body of the email. It's not enticing them to click through. So there's something happening there in your messaging. But like you say, you can kind of start high and see, well, what's the first thing? Where's the block happening? Because no one's going to be clicking if they're not opening the email. So you need to sort of look first at that open rate and then at the click rate.
And it's the same with the sales funnel, like we were talking earlier, where maybe you have a simple sales funnel where you have a sales page, your checkout page, and then a thank you page, right?
Yeah.
And usually our analytics tools will tell us, your conversion rate to get to the thank you page was X amount. Well, that's your overall sales funnel conversion rate. But maybe there's a spot in that step ladder that needs some tweaking, right? Let's say, for example, you're going from your sales page to your checkout page, you had a great conversion rate, but then from checkout to thank you page, it was really low. So that shows us, people liked what they read, they were ready to buy, but then for some reason they didn't follow through. So whether it was the price, was there something confusing on the checkout page, what? And so you can do things like have a cart abandonment email sequence to say, when anyone gets to the checkout page and doesn't buy, I just send them a little reminder or two to say, hey, I noticed you were interested, right?
Yes.
And so doing things like that and then remeasuring again, you can say, good. Now that made a difference because now when people are getting to the checkout page, they're actually purchasing and I have a higher conversion rate. So again, each step of the funnel needs to be looked at. Don't just look at the whole thing because you don't know where the tweaks need to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it's like so minor. You think, well, it's not that the whole thing isn't working just because you're not getting the result at the end that you want. It's like it might be working really well and just be one little thing that you can tweak and have a huge difference. So yeah, so great. And this doesn't have to be, as you just said, think about that. That's only 3 data points. It can be really simple. Looking at how many people are on the page, how many people got to the checkout page, how many people actually purchased and got to the thank you page. That's super simple, and how much that powerful data gives you in terms of what you need to be focusing on or looking at is huge. How often should we be tracking? What are we looking at, and are there any easy ways to do it so that people are like, I know I should be doing it, but I just don't have time? What are the hacks? How can we hack our business and our life so that we can do it without it being a burden?
Good point. Yes. So I would say in general, you want to be tracking about 8 to 12 metrics, again, based on what your business goals are. Start there. Don't get too many more or it becomes hairy and the waters become muddy and then it's hard to take action because you're not sure what it's really telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So start between 8 and 12. You can start with a spreadsheet. That's certainly what lots of people do, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a few things with it. One, as a busy business owner, you're probably not going to go and you might set up the spreadsheet, but actually go and put the numbers in there. It's probably not going to happen. So if you have a team and that you can train someone on your team to do that, that's plausible. It's just not scalable. And so another option to go for, of course, it costs a little bit of investment up front, but is to make a dashboard where the data will flow in automatically.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a visual representation. So it's got charts and graphs rather than looking at the actual numbers. And the data flows in, every 24 hours or so. And so you can always see where you're at.
Oh, wow.
I suggest when you're starting to measure your data once a month and to actually put it in your calendar. So pick a day of the month. Maybe it's at a time when you're doing CEO work already. Hopefully you are, and put that as part of the task. And if you have it on a dashboard, literally 10, 15 minutes is all you need. It's not it doesn't have to be a long drawn out 2-hour process. If you have everything there right in front of you. And so at least once a month, be checking. You can certainly check more frequently, but at least once a month to look at those patterns.
Oh, wow.
Of course, if you're launching or you're starting something new, or, you just introduced a new freebie or something, you might want to check a little more frequently just to see how that particular thing is behaving. But overall, once a month is good.
Yeah. I love the sound of this dashboard. That is like music to my ears.
Yes, it's a lot easier than digging in the different parts of analytics, right? So, imagine it like the dashboard of your car. And so when you get in your car, you start your engine, you can quickly see, okay, I've got gas, my oil's good, I don't have any engine lights. Oh, Johnny, you need to put on your seatbelt, whatever those things are. You can quickly see that before you drive away. And it's the same with the dashboard. You can quickly see the patterns and trends and see what's working and what isn't. And then from there, like we did with the examples, you can dive deeper. So if something's off, then you can start saying, I wonder, right? And so let's just say you had a bar graph that was showing your revenue and expenses, and you've got your whole year in front of you with a bar for revenue and expenses. You're going to easily see which months, my revenue was way up in January. What did we do? Oh, yeah, well, we introduced a product, or I was on so-and-so summit, or, something. Oh, but April, it's always down. What could we do in April to increase that revenue? And then the wheels start turning.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. And so how do we get a dashboard?
Yes.
Everyone's sitting there going, I like the sound of this dashboard. Let's get one.
Yes, that's right. So there's a couple things. I do have a free complimentary one to start people off. So your listeners are welcome to grab that. It's a fairly long link, so you'll just put it in the show notes. But
okay.
It's a complimentary website traffic dashboard. And so it's going to get you started. You hook up your Google Analytics to your website if you don't have that already, and throw that into your dashboard. And so what will happen is once you have it set up, the data will flow in automatically from the time you set it up going forward. It doesn't take that long to set up. It has about 9 little lessons. There's some video lessons and some just text, but really 15, 20 minutes. It's easy to set up.
Yeah. And what does that give you that's different to Google? So like if someone's sitting there thinking, but when I log into Google Analytics, I kind of see a bit of a dashboard and what they've got in there. How is this different? What sort of insights are we getting from it?
Yes. So I'm 100% biased, but it's completely different from Google's dashboard.
Okay.
I actually don't find that dashboard that Google gives you very useful. And there's a few reasons why.
Yeah.
One, I find that they don't map out the details. So they may say, so many users, but then they don't say where those users are coming from, which is important data to know. They also don't put any context. So by that, I mean, when you go to this dashboard that I made, you will see a little number under each of the stats with either a red or green arrow. So red if it's going down, green if it's going up. And the reason for that is I want to compare your data now for the period we're looking at today to the period before.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, you were looking at your data for first quarter of 2022. Then you're going to compare that to the last quarter of 2021.
Yeah.
So without that data, without that context, you don't know. Because let's say it's that
Is
you
it good
have
or not?
4,000 new users. I don't
Mhm.
know. Is that good? Bad? Well, it depends on what was happening before, right? If you
Yeah.
were getting 50,000 new users and now you're getting 4,000, yeah, there's a problem. But it could be the other way around. Maybe your numbers are very increased and you don't know. So you need that context. And so that's one thing that those Google dashboards don't show you. So that's really important. I also have little icons that you can click on and get more information. So because I know everyone's at a different stage of learning and a different stage of what they're comfortable with. And so those little icons will help you if you don't know what some of the terms are or what kind of action you should be taking. Those little icons will help.
Oh, wow. That's really useful, because I think that's part of the thing, isn't it? Like, if you're not used to the numbers, you're not used to what they mean, you're looking at it and you're thinking, okay, so that's going down, but what does that even mean? And what should I be doing about it? Or where do you go next? And suddenly all you've got are questions and no answers. So, I mean, that just
and then
sounds
you just get overwhelmed.
so useful. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Amazing. Okay. That sounds fantastic. And yes, I've linked that up in the show notes. So you can click on the show notes and grab Donna's free website dashboard, because this sounds like a fantastic way to start, just looking at what's happening. Your website, that's your 24/7 salesperson that's online for you all the time. So
yeah,
we want to be knowing what's going on our website. Amazing.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted a way to be able to help business owners to get started, because I know it's a stumbling block for so many. And it's just something I'm passionate about, because I've seen the transformation in so many clients' businesses when they do start looking at it, right? I know I was working with a physician for a while, and she was very not numbers friendly. I had to convince her to hire an accountant so that her business could keep going, and she was following the tax rules and all those things. But I said to her, I'd like to build you a dashboard for what? Of course, she wasn't familiar for what it was, but I said, let's try it. I think it's going to help. And so I built it for her. Now, she won't go and look at it on her own, but she does. She has told me she very much likes the one-on-one meetings we have, where I bring it up, I screen share, and I go over it with her, and she gets lots of ideas of how she's going to change this or that or move forward just from looking at it. For her to go and look at it on her own, she's probably not going to do that, but others certainly will, right? Depends on the person.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. I'm like, I need this. This is what I need in my life, because I'm like, I'll go in and look at the data, but, I'm going into all the different platforms. It's time consuming. Obviously, when I'm running ads, I'm in there probably every day looking at it, because you kind of need to dig into that granular data. But I would just find that so powerful to be once a month sitting there going, right, I just need to see the dashboard, what's happening in the business. And then, I think I probably would end up looking at it once a week. But
yes,
to be honest, I think if it's there and it's easy to look at, like, it tells you such a great story. And, you can really see, what do you respond to? What are you going to be proactive about? And what do you need to put some attention on before it turns into a disaster?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's built in a tool called Google Data Studio. So it's just another Google product. So if you have a Google account, you just use your Google account to log in. So it's not, another service that you have to pay for, any of that kind of thing. There certainly are paid for places where you can build dashboards, right? But I find a lot of my clients are just happy using the Data Studio. So,
Something I didn't know. I've just learned something today. So thank you. Yes. And with this Data Studio, so can you bring in analytics from other platforms as well? So if you've got your email marketing software, you want to sort of be tracking, maybe your subscribers or your subscriber growth rate, I guess, like the aggregation, because you have people who are unsubscribing as well. And then you're probably overall average email open rate, click rate, I guess, that integrate in. And what about?
Yes, for sure. Now in this website traffic one, it's not there, because that would take some work to set up, obviously, for each person's tech stack. But yes, you can bring in data from your cart tool. You can bring in data if you have a membership, you can bring in data from there. So yes, it just depends on what piece of tech you're using, what we can get out of it. Sometimes we can pull right from there, like we do with Google Analytics. Other times we may have to pull the data to a spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet to Data Studio.
Wow.
Yeah, it just depends on the software tool.
Oh, I can't wait to get my hands into this. Fantastic.
Good.
Thank you. Now, is there any final piece of advice, something that you'd say to anybody listening who's thinking, wow, really want to get this happening with the business? What would be that one piece of advice that you'd have?
Yeah. So I think my piece of advice would be that it doesn't have to be scary. It's just the answers to questions. And so start with what your goals are and what questions you have, and then figure out what data you need to track, and start small in the sense that don't track everything. Make sure what you're tracking tracks back to your goals, because we don't want to be tracking vanity metrics. We want to be tracking things that affect our bottom line.
Yes. Oh, vanity metrics. I think we could have a whole nother episode just talking about that. So many people get hung up on it. And it's like, well, what is that actually getting you? I think when you can clearly link it to the bottom line, great. But if it's just how many followers you have, well, so what?
Yeah, that's right. And that's why it's important, if you're going to take your dashboard a few steps further, to actually include that conversion rate in there. Right? So that the conversion rate can actually be calculated for you, so you can see, because in Google Analytics, you can set up goals. So you can say, okay, when someone lands on thank you page A, that means that they opted in for this freebie or lead magnet, right?
Yes.
And so now we can actually calculate that conversion rate, and it'll be sitting right there for you. So you don't have to go through the pages and do the math. It's just right there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things, another little insight that I got out when I was looking last night was how many people were landing on my opt-in page who've come from Instagram, because I could see how many had landed on my Instagram links page and then gone through to the opt-in page from there. So that gave me obviously an insight into, okay, so how many people from Instagram who are looking at my content are then going through to come through to opt-in. That's useful, as opposed to how many followers am I getting in this launch. That's an interesting stat, but it's not really helping to add anything to the bottom line. So
no, because followers are great, but followers alone don't bring you revenue, right? Someone actually has to convert and book a call, opt in, pay for something. That's the ultimate goal here. Yes. So yes, you do need visibility. You do need people seeing what you're doing and engaging with that, but that's got its own purpose. So I like to look at each piece sort of serving its own purpose, right? So if you're putting a piece of content out there on social media to bring people to your opt-in page, if it brings people to your opt-in page, check mark, that one was done. Then now we go from your opt-in page, now they're getting on your email list. Then you look, okay, are they opening? Are they engaging with the content that I'm sending in my nurturing emails or my sales emails, right? And not forget about, but say, yep, the content on social media did its job. Now are my emails doing their job? Is this piece doing their job? Rather than expecting someone from your content on social media to go all the way through and purchase, because we know the buying cycle is not one day.
No, or one step.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it takes people time to know, like, and trust you. And so you can't expect go from social media content to purchasing. There's a lot of steps in between, and sometimes a lot of time in between. So make sure every piece is doing its job, and then you're golden.
Yeah. And I think, part of why that's so important as well is just your expectations and managing, how you're feeling about it, because that feeling of like, oh, I'm putting the social media content out, no one's buying. It's like, well, what is the journey? Like, where are you taking them from? And are you looking at what's happening there? Because like you say, they're not taking just one step from seeing a post to purchase. So we can manage that feeling of like, oh, it's not working, when actually, what it's working for what it needs to be doing is like, have you got the next step in place for them? That might actually be the thing that's not working, is that there's no journey there, which, that's a conversation for another day. But
yes, we're having fun.
No, I feel I could talk about this forever. I love all it, getting into it all. But if anybody wants to connect with you and find out more about what you do and learn some more stuff about all this interesting data and how to really use it in our business, I think, to leverage, improve our results, optimize our business, then how can they best find you and connect with you?
Yeah. So my website is productivityplusva.ca.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go on there, they will find there's a tab for blog. And so I write a weekly blog post, which is all about data.
Wow.
So if anyone wants to dive into that, I just recently did a series about all the different report options in Google Analytics. So if you're thinking, oh yeah, Google Analytics, I never look there, that's a place where you can start. So I just point out, you don't have to look at everything, but there's some key areas within Google Analytics you can look at.
Oh,
so that's my website, and I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. So they're welcome to find me there as well.
Great. All right. Well, I'll link all those up in the show notes as well. And that sounds like a great place to start because Google is, what would I say? Then it's not the most intuitive, no. And how to do stuff or how to use things with the reports is always not also that helpful. At times you can spend a lot of time Googling for help on Google. So it sounds like maybe going to a real human and not a coder and getting some advice and some, broken down into human words would be really useful. So Donna's website sounds like a fantastic place to start. Just, even understanding how you can get that data from Google and what to do with it, how to understand it and interpret it. So thank you so much. This has been a fantastic chat. I've really enjoyed it and we must continue to connect. I'm very interested to hear more from you, Donna.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. It's been great.
Thank you. Have you ever wondered what might happen if you added an online course or an online membership to your business? Now, what could that bring you? What are the possibilities? What is the earning potential? And when I tell you that when I made the decision to lean in and focus on creating and launching my own program, which is called Business Jam, I was able to add an extra 100K to my business in just a year. Then I'm sure you'll agree that that was a really, really good decision. It really helped me to scale and grow beyond what was even remotely possible before that. And the reason why I was able to do that in just 1 year wasn't because I already knew everything and I knew what to do and I knew how to launch and marketing. No, it wasn't any of that. Actually, I had never launched an online course before. I'd never built one before. I was completely new, learning it all from scratch. And that's why I invested in a program to help me jump through all that learning a lot faster, to stop the second guessing, to give me a really great roadmap so that I wouldn't make some of the really simple mistakes that many people make trying to create and launch an online course all on their own. Now, this program opens up only once a year, and the time it's opening for 2022 happens to be right now. So I thought it was a good time to mention it. And if you would like to have a look and see what it is and whether it might be right for you, is it going to be a right fit for you or not? Well, I don't know. That's up to you to decide. But the link for this program, it is called Business by Design by my mentor and coach, James Wedmore, who is one of the, I guess we'd call him the gurus of the internet world, the internet marketing world. He's been a game changer really for my business. I've met him in person earlier this year because yes, I'm still in the program. This is now my second year. We're coming up to the end of it. And, it's really helped me to grow a huge deal. And I went over to the US just a few months ago to meet him in person and attend our in-person retreat, which is for his accelerator coaching group that I'm in. Yes, it's definitely worthwhile, but it isn't going to be for everybody. I'm going to let you make that decision. I just wanted to share this opportunity with you because it comes around only once a year. And I know that when I first wanted to join, I didn't join the first time because I don't know why. I had a little bit of fear and whatever, and I had to wait a whole year to get in again. Right when I did join, I launched Business Jam for the first time just 3 weeks later. So I was literally on the fire hydrant, drinking in as much of the learning as I could in that time. I launched Business Jam and it was a 5-figure launch straight up for my very first one, my founding members launch. So yes, it was absolutely 100% worthwhile for me, and I hope it would be worthwhile for you if it's the right fit for you. So head over and have a look at Business by Design, please grab the link from the show notes there. That'll take you right to the correct page and see what it would be like for you. And maybe you can make this your year to have your transformation and to take your business to a whole new level, just like I did.